How is everybody doing? Welcome back to another live stream on the channel. We've got a lot to get into today. There is a potential war with Iran, which seems to be very close in terms of time when this may happen. Some people are saying it could be in a week. Some people saying it could be any day now. So we're going to discuss that and how it could potentially have some impacts on the crypto market. I'm also going to be sharing with you my favorite altcoins to be investing in as of right now. And I'll be providing you with a bit of an update on the crypto market and where I see things going. So first of all I ask from you guys, as usual, is to hit the likes up on the stream. Get any questions you have about the market in the chat as well, because there's a lot going on right now. Even though price action is still quite boring and we haven't really got out of this range yet, there is a lot going on in the background and a lot that we need to discuss on today's live stream. So get any questions you have in the chat and get the likes up to help out with the channel. So yeah, I'm first of all just going to discuss Bitcoin and its current price action, because we haven't really seen anything crazy just yet, but it almost feels like a big move is imminent. You know, it feels like something is about to happen very soon. If you look at the Bollinger Bands, they are extremely tight at the moment because of how compressed we are in terms of price action. And, you know, it looks like we're going to have some form of breakout move very, very imminently here, whether that's to the upside or the downside. Well, we're going to discuss that in the live stream today and the potential catalysts that could move it to the downside. But if you go and take a look at Bitcoin, you can see very clearly that we are certainly compressing in price since we had that major drop. And you know, there is probably some form of a move coming imminently, okay? What do I mean by imminently? I mean literally any day now we can expect quite a volatile move on Bitcoin, because you've got all this compression here of indecision where kind of the bulls and the bears are fighting it out, and eventually we're going to get that move, either up or down. And if you look at it right now, it seems like maybe the move's going to be down, and I discussed the potential M pattern that was forming here. I also mentioned that it would actually be bullish for BTC to go and make a bullish divergence. That for me would be a bullish thing. If we can get a bullish divergence on Bitcoin, that would be a very, very good sign for me. Because usually when you have major bottoms, you have a bullish divergence, right? Whenever you get a major bottom on Bitcoin, whether it's a bear market low or even just like a mid-cycle correction, right? Usually bullish divergences mark the bottom. And that is the confirmation signal for people to then go and buy more and jump back into the market. So that's something that I'm actually hoping for, is we go slightly lower to create that bullish divergence, and then we can get more of a sustained bounce, maybe even up to the 50-week moving average. But 80K would be the first major level I'd be looking for Bitcoin to bounce to, which is a significant way above us if you think about it. Right now we're sat at 67,000. So if we bounce up to 80K, it's a good move. There'll be definitely great gains made during that move on altcoins. But what I'm looking for first is a potential bullish divergence. What do I mean by that? I mean price action goes slightly lower. Maybe we come down to 55K, 57K, something like that. We create a lower low, but the RSI creates a higher low. That is what a bullish divergence is. And if we can get that on the daily, that would be a very bullish sign to say, okay, the sellers are starting to get exhausted now. Now it's time to start moving back into some form of a sustained move up. Okay, that's what a bullish divergence would do for me. But when you zoom out of this chart, it looks like a clear M pattern to me. Also, you know, we're getting very close to a breakdown here. We're right on the last legs of support of this triangle. People say that this is also a, you know, bear pennant. You've got the downtrend, and then you've got your pennant. So usually that breaks down further. It's a continuation pattern to the downside. So there's a lot of things to me suggesting another move lower, but not much more lower, okay, or not much lower. That's kind of what I'm thinking, is we're going to go lower, but not by a lot, not by a huge margin. If we zoom out and we go on the weekly, and we look at the 200-week moving average, well, that is currently sat around $58,000. So it seems very reasonable to me that we'll actually go and fill that. Like, we'll actually hit it to the T. Because there's still a lot of people saying that we need to go down and hit it, and we haven't hit it yet, and they're waiting for that as a buy signal. So I do think we're probably going to go there at some point. And if you look at what's going on with the geopolitical front, maybe a war with Iran might just be that catalyst to push us down lower to one final low before we then see more of a sustained uptrend. Now, I'm not usually someone who focuses too much on the news. Okay? I obviously read the news. I listen to the news. I keep up to date with everything that's going on geopolitically. I'm very in tune with it. I've always been interested in geopolitics. But I understand that markets are very intelligent. They price things in months in advance sometimes. You know, and just because the US may go to war with Iran does not mean we're going to all of a sudden go to zero, okay? Because smart investors, intelligent investors, would have already expected a war with Iran months ago. I mean, there's been signs that the US was going to go to war with Iran for a very long time. This isn't any new news to us, right? We've known about this as a possibility for a very long time. So the question is, what degree of it is actually priced into the market? What percentage is priced in? Now, I'm asking you guys that. I would personally say maybe 70% is priced into the market, 30% isn't. So there would probably be an initial shock factor. But I don't think we go down to like 30K or anything crazy if there's a war with Iran. I'm not expecting that. What am I expecting? I'm expecting, you know, a little flash crash, maybe down to like 55K and then a bounce. That's probably what I would expect. Because the smart money have probably already sold expecting this already. Because there's been signs that something like this was going to happen for a very long period of time. So for those of you who are, you know, sleeping under a rock and haven't really, you know, been paying attention to what's going on with the geopolitical situation, I'm going to go through it right now. So just in the last 24 hours or so, there's been a huge spike in the probability of some form of US invasion of Iran. That has, you know, skyrocketed in its probability just in the last 24 hours. And if you go and look at Polymarket, there's actually around a 67% chance that there's a strike by June 30th, and there's a 60% chance that there's a strike by the end of March. So very high probabilities that something is going to happen by the end of March. It could even be earlier than that. But it seems like something's going to be happening any week now. And if you go and look at some of the, you know, the posts, essentially the US seems to be preparing for some form of invasion or some form of military action. There has been a US armada of 2 aircraft carriers, 12 warships, and hundreds of fighter jets available. And basically, if you look at what's been going on with the flights, like people have these flight radar things, right, where they can track all of the planes and everything. There's been some interesting movements going on around the Middle East. Oil prices have been surging as well. So oil's gone above $64 per barrel. And I think the Strait of Hormuz was closed off for some point, okay? So it seems like something is going to be happening. And we've got this post here. Let me just get it up on the screen. We have this post here showing multiple kind of signs that are suggesting that there's going to be some form of imminent operation in Iran. And this time around, they're expecting it to be more of a full-fledged war rather than just a very quick military operation like what happened in Venezuela, right? Venezuela was very, very quick, in and out kind of job. And that is not what is being expected with Iran. It's not going to be a very quick operation. It's probably going to be something which takes much more time. Therefore, its impact on the market could be more of a longer term impact than a very short term impact, right? Some people would suggest. So the US have been moving, I think, ships over, aircraft over, things like that. They've been basically positioning themselves in a way to which it looks like they're going to do some form of military action against Iran. Okay, so not necessarily a good thing for markets in terms of risk on, risk off. But the interesting thing today is these probabilities have spiked, yet the stock market isn't really doing too bad. Okay, if you look at the Mag 7, all of them are in green today. If you look at the indices, the S&P 500 is in green, the Russell 2000 is in green, and I think it's very telling what the equity markets are suggesting, which is this is not going to impact the markets too much. And we witnessed this with the Venezuela military action, right? There was not a major impact on markets from the Venezuela action. In fact, you could even make the argument that it was seen as a position of strength for the US, and it was seen as something which bolsters the position of the US on the global geopolitical stage, and pushes them up even higher economically because they just went in and took the oil. Now, I'm not comparing Venezuela with Iran. I see an awful lot of naive people saying that the US would get the job done instantly and this would all be done and dusted straight away. No, this is a completely different kettle of fish, okay? Iran, in some metrics, is a top 10 military. Venezuela, I don't even think is top 50. Venezuela is some tiny military, very poor country. Obviously, Iran has a lot of poverty as well, but they have some wealth at the top. And Iran has a much bigger population and a much bigger military, okay? Yes, the equipment's not as good. Yes, a lot of it's outdated. But they're not going to go out easily. Whereas Venezuela, we all know, is not a mighty military by any stretch of the imagination. So oil spiking, that's kind of showing, that something's about to happen. Why is this important for crypto? Why is this important for markets? Well, you have, and by the way, I live in Dubai, so I'm kind of in this region of the world. You have this strait of water called the Strait of Hormuz. And many of you guys will know about it already. But basically, I spelled it wrong. There we go. You have this strait of water called the Strait of Hormuz. And essentially, this is where loads of the oil around the world is shipped. Because this region is obviously very wealthy in terms of oil. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, UAE, Oman. It's the Persian Gulf. And you have the area which Iran has threatened to essentially close off. And that would spike oil prices because of a shortage of supply. Right? The demand for oil isn't going to change. The demand is staying high. But if you cut the supply off, then prices are going to go up. Basic economics. So you've got this little kind of area called the Strait of Hormuz. And this is the area which Iran could potentially close off, leading to a spike in the oil prices globally, which isn't necessarily a good thing for markets. Okay, so it's just something to pay attention to. It's very important. Just something to pay attention to in the short term. I think it will blow over in the long term anyway. But if you listen to some of the top guys in the US administration, it seems like something's going to happen. Okay, I was listening to JD Vance speak earlier, and he was basically saying Trump is not ruling out military action. There's been talks going on, I believe, in Switzerland between Iran and the US. They made some moves forward, but I think some of it also fell apart. So, if they don't get some sort of agreement regarding the nuclear situation, I think it is going to get pretty bad. And this is going to be worse than the very short period of conflict that we had last year. Don't know if you guys remember. There was a bit of political posturing. It wasn't a war by any means. There was just some political posturing, and I don't think anyone was really. I mean, Iran sent over some drones, I think, to one of the U.S. bases, and it was just a very naff response. But I think this time around, if it genuinely breaks out, I think it's going to be a lot worse than what happened last year in scale. The question is, like I said earlier, what percentage of this is already priced into the market? And we'll discuss that a little bit later on in the stream. But as always, these are my top altcoins to invest in. We will be discussing these a little bit later on as well in the stream. Looking for the best buys out of these. I'll be kind of addressing the ones which I personally would be focusing on stacking right now, because a couple of them have pumped, especially Tau. We got into Tau at 145. It gave us a nice rally to the upside, actually, Potenza Tau. So maybe you're going to see a bit of a pullback just because of the fact that it's pumped quite considerably. See that? We got in right at the bottom. 145 was the buy alert in the VIP. 145, and it absolutely sent it. Completely exploded. So Potenza Tau is one that maybe I wouldn't be buying, but if you missed it, it's not a bad time to buy. Don't get me wrong, it's still down a lot. But I'd be looking to stack some of the alts which still haven't necessarily moved too much yet. One of them that hasn't moved too much yet is Say. Say still hasn't done anything really. If you look at it, still, I mean, it's up 3% in the week. It's done nothing. Another one, Casper. Still kind of waiting on a move up for Casper. But, you know, I'm liking the Casper chart. We went through this on one of the recent live streams. I'm liking what I'm seeing with Cas, okay? If we look at Casper on MEXC, and we go on the weekly, you can see it's in this very nice kind of wedge structure. It's clearly compressing. And yeah, I'm just a big fan of the overall chart. As long as it maintains this range, I do believe at some point we are going to get a major breakout to the upside here on Casper. If it loses this range, however, I think it would be pretty disastrous, because all of this period of basically compressing and building this strong structure would then be broken. So as long as it maintains this structure that I'm seeing here, I honestly think Casper has a very, very bullish end to the year. I think it could do really well in the second half of the year. But yeah, we look at the probabilities here. US strike on Iran. We can see that there is a 75% chance that there's a strike by the end of the year. So extremely high. And most likely, if there is going to be a strike, it's going to be by the middle of March. So this is just a situation to monitor. I'm just bringing some people, you know, aware to it, because some people maybe are not following this situation and aren't aware of the potential consequences on markets, right? But yeah, I'm going to get through some of the comments, see what you guys are saying. Let's see what everyone's talking about. Okay. Do I really think we will see a bull run in 2026? No. I don't think we'll see a bull run in 2026. Personally. I don't. But I think we'll see certainly good gains. But by a bull run, I'm assuming you're implying a new all-time high. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to when you say a bull run, because for me, even if we rallied, let's just say up to like 100K and then rejected, that's not a bull run, right? That's just a rally. That's just a potential dead cat bounce or complacency shoulder or counter trend rally, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't call that a bull run, just making a bounce up to 100K. In order to actually define it as a bull run, I'd say we need to pass the 126,000 all-time high for it to be a new bull run. And I don't see that this year. I've got to be honest with you. I do see it next year. I see a new all-time high on Bitcoin next year. But I don't see it this year. I think a lot of this year is just going to be chop and consolidation. Because if you look historically speaking, like when Bitcoin makes these major dumps and these huge moves to the downside, it's not a V-shaped recovery. It's typically a major period of consolidation around the bottom and then slowly grinding back up. That's usually what happens. Unless it's like the COVID crash, which was just a clear event that passed, then you know, it's not normally something that happens. What's going on? Are we back? Are we live? Yo, guys, just let me know if we're back live. All right, we're back. Okay, so yeah, everyone's waiting for a Q4 bottom because that's what's happened every other time. But at the rate we're dumping here, it's very, very possible that we find a bottom earlier on. Super possible that we could find a bottom earlier on and then just range. And everyone's waiting for that major move to the downside in Q4 and then we just send it. That for me would be the maximum pain scenario. And I don't think I can remember an event in Bitcoin history that seems so certain within the general populace like the Q4 bottom argument right now. Everyone, every single Tom, Dick, and Harry is saying that basically just sell now and buy back in at Q4. That's what like all the Twitter gurus are saying. That's what all the YouTubers and influencers are saying. That's what generally just all of retail is saying. Sell now and come back at Q4, October, November. Everyone's saying that. And, you know, whilst they were saying it last time, there was still a pretty sizable amount of people who were disagreeing. This time it just seems like it's absolutely everyone arguing a Q4 bottom. Like 99% of people, basically. So, if there is going to be a time where it ends up not being Q4, I think it would be this year. "100% would you a move up, man." Frozen after the Q4 comments. Yeah, it's super annoying, man. But yeah, I think we're gonna have a big counter trend rally very soon. You know, even if the bottom is not in, I still think we're gonna see a significant move to the upside very, very soon. Just because of the fact that we're so oversold on all the metrics, you know? You look at the RSI, it's one of the most oversold it's been in years. I mean, just look at the Bitcoin chart on the weekly and tell me that you don't think we're going to have a big rally at some point. Yeah, Peter Thiel did just sell his Ethereum. Yeah, so hopefully we're all good now with the stream. Cyber attacks. Yeah, man, I'm being targeted with a cyber attack probably. That's what's going on. It's annoying. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Assume an attack isn't fully priced in. What are your targets for Sol, Casper, and Tau? Are you talking about short-term targets, like for the bear market, or are you talking about to the upside? I'm assuming you're talking about targets, you know, to the downside if we go lower. And if that's the case, then I think, let's check Tau. So, what was the low for Tau? I think it could, worst case scenario, maybe retest those lows, but I don't see it going much lower than that. Casper's got major support on this trend line. Tau has a major trend line as well. Like, some of these coins that are in these big ranges, like Tau's in this big range, they might lose the range for a very short period of time. But I don't think they would stay under this range. Unless it was like really, you know, a doomsday style crash. Like if shit really went down. And I'm not even referring to the US and Iran thing. I don't think that could be enough to like really, really, really dump Bitcoin. I think what would be required to send Bitcoin like down to 30K or something would genuinely be like MicroStrategy collapsing or one of the big exchanges collapsing. That's what would be required to send Bitcoin that low. I don't think a war with Iran would be big enough to send Bitcoin that low. Therefore, I don't think coins like Tau and Casper would probably lose their ranges. I mean, they might lose it for like a week or two and then come back up. Yeah, Asta's going to be bringing out their mainnet next month. Yep. That's going to be bullish. Also, Hyperliquid are bringing out the prediction market stuff as well. If Bitcoin falls to 55K, do you think Tau will fall to $1? Is that? Nah, not $1. The hell? I assume you're talking about $100. I mean, yeah, if Bitcoin goes to 55K, then it will probably have a flash crash. It'll probably have a flash crash. But it will probably be short-lived. You know, if there's a crash regarding a war, typically they're very short-lived. And they typically present very good buying opportunities. It's very unlikely that there's going to be a strike today, though. If you look at Polymarket, it seems like the strike's going to be, you know, some point in March. I wonder if the stock market would suffer if there was a war with Iran. Well, this is the thing, right? We saw the stock market barely even dump when the US went into Venezuela. Now, this is a whole different situation, but I think if the US do it in a way where it shows strength and not weakness, then the US stock market could actually benefit from it. But if it is a bit of a weak move, then maybe the stock market would suffer. I think it really depends on the scale of the move and what's actually done. You know, you could even have a situation where the stock market rallies if it's like a very minor move. So if they are to do something and it's quite minor, then that might be a sigh of relief for the stock market, because the stock market was expecting the worst. So if the stock market's expecting the worst and something very minor happens, then it could actually cause a bounce. Fetcho says, where does your conviction for XBL come from? I can see it doing a 15x since it's basically bottomed out. Where does my conviction come from? It just comes from the backing and the quality of the project. It's an extremely fast project, and their TVL is very impressive. Just go to DeFi Llama and look at the chains, and look at where XPL Plasma ranks. It ranks pretty high in terms of the chains. In terms of DeFi TVL, in terms of stablecoin TVL. Just in terms of the general metrics that you judge a chain off, it ranks very highly. And yet the market cap's tiny. Global Investor says back in the 1990s, wars would easily trigger wild moves in oil and stock market prices, but nowadays not so much. Yeah, exactly, right? They don't really move markets as much as people expect. Now, obviously, if there was some sort of nuclear war, then obviously that would tank markets. But we'd have bigger issues to worry about if that happened. But all of these kind of regional wars, they don't make massive differences. Look, if there was going to be a big impact to wars, you would have seen it when Russia invaded Ukraine. If wars were kind of the make or break for markets and they destroy markets, then you would have seen markets get absolutely obliterated when Russia invaded Ukraine. But it never happened. When Russia invaded Ukraine, you saw a very short drop followed by a massive rally with Bitcoin, actually. I remember it. We had like a quick dump during the night, and then we absolutely sent it the weeks following. So that could be what happens with the Iran situation. Maybe there's a short drop, we get that bullish divergence, and then we absolutely skyrocket from there. Because this chart to me is signaling a bottom quite soon. I mean, this is a huge bottoming out range, this big box. And the sellers are going to be getting very exhausted quite soon. And that's what a bullish divergence is. A bullish divergence shows you when sellers are getting exhausted. That's what it does. And I just think you've got so much volume and important volume in these three areas. These three boxes that I've just outlined on the screen. The April 2021 all-time high. The November 2021 all-time high. All of that sideways price action in 2024. That massive, massive base that we built. You've got so much price action there, I find it difficult to believe that we're going to just all of a sudden go down to 20K. Because we built such a strong base here, something big would have to bring us lower. And I don't think a war with Iran is big enough to bring Bitcoin below this major range. I think you would genuinely need like an issue with MicroStrategy or Coinbase or something like that, which probably isn't going to happen, let's face it. Everyone's hoping for an issue so they can buy Bitcoin at 20K, but it's probably not going to happen, guys. Exactly, Ricky. So many people are on the sidelines right now, worried about a war with Iran, worried about all these different things. And then once they happen, they're all going to jump back in. And you're going to have a rush of FOMO, in my opinion. Is this a good time to accumulate XPL? I mean, in my opinion, yes. But from a technical standpoint, probably not. Let me try and get the right chart up. From a technical standpoint, it's probably not a good time to buy because the chart looks cooked. I mean, the chart looks absolutely cooked. It looks disastrous, the chart. The reason I'm buying XPL isn't necessarily because of the chart setup looking so good right now. It's mainly because I think it is going to have at least some large comeback rally, even if it's not to all-time highs. You know, even if it's not to all-time highs, I think it's going to have a real nice rally at some point. You know, let's just say it rallies up to 50 cents. That's a 5.5x from here. And that's 50 cents. Let's say it rallies up to its all-time high. You're talking an 18x on your money. to all-time highs. Zora looks solid. I was always a fan of Zora. Like, the concept is good. It's just this hasn't been the cycle of, like, Web3 adoption and social media and all of this. Like, people were hoping that this would be the cycle where we would get all this hype around Web3, and this would finally be the cycle where crypto and blockchain technology gets adopted. But it just wasn't to be, right? I think AI overshadowed it. And if you look at Zora, it's been in a clear downtrend. Clear as day downtrend. The problem with this chart, Bren, is the fact that it had this major bounce all in one move. Typically, when you have those types of rallies, you just come all the way back down to the base. I've seen it play out so many times. I witnessed this with XRP in was it 2018? XRP had that major blow off top, and because it failed to build any form of a base, it just came all the way back down in 2018. And it looks like that's what's happening here on XRP. It's coming all the way back down to its base. Because if you fail to build nice higher highs and higher lows price structure on a rally, you will just come straight back down 99% of the time, because it's unsustainable. And you fail to build any form of volume base on the way up. That's why Bitcoin isn't dumping like that. Bitcoin is actually correcting, finding a base, and then going sideways for some time. Because Bitcoin did form bases on the way up. It wasn't just a God candle blow off top. And when you have these major God candles like this, you do typically just come straight back down to where all that bottoming volume is. I've seen it play out so many times, guys. Where is the base on XRP? Let's take a look. So XRP is another one of these examples where you have this major rally, and I'm talking about XRP in 2025. You have this major rally, fail to build a base on the way up, and now look at what it's doing. It's starting to come back down to where all that big base is. So yeah, I would say XRP's base is like anywhere around like 75 cents all the way down to like 30 cents. That is like the base on XRP. But if you're taking it from when the actual move began, then it's 50 cents. 50 cents is where XRP began its blow off top of this cycle. So I would say, you know, if you're being super logical here, you would argue that XRP probably will come down here at some point and retest all this volume that it built up for the entirety of 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and part of 2025. That's where all the volume was. Or sorry, not part of 2025. It was right at the end of 24 when it had that breakout around the election time. Pedro, I am more of like an investor, I would say. the way I like to play this market is to basically buy in when Bitcoin is oversold on a macro scale and sell when Bitcoin is overbought on a macro scale. And I know it sounds extremely simple, but how do I do that? I do that by the major moving averages on BTC, the 50-week and the 200-week, and some other indicators, but I'm not going to get into those on the stream. But basically buy when we're at or around the 200-week moving average, or below it even, and then sell once we lose the 50-week moving average. That's like your final line in the sand to sell. And then on the way up, you just keep taking profits on the way up, essentially, for Bitcoin and altcoins. And that's exactly what I've done this cycle. So I bought in the majority of my funds. I bought in here. And then on the way up, I was just gradually taking little bits out. I bought some properties here as well. And yeah, that's just what I was doing. And then my line in the sand was this blue line. That was the line for me where it was like, okay, the bull run is now officially invalidated. I'm going to sell. So yes, I was taking profits on the way up, 24x on Troll, 10x in 10 days on Avantis. You know, loads of different projects were doing good gains. And then once we lost that 50-week moving average, then you cut everything. Cut your losses, cut your profits, get out, and look to buy back in whenever we get to the 200. And to my surprise, I mean, it's not even to my surprise, because I thought it would happen quite quick. But to a lot of people's surprise, we've come down to the 200-week moving average very, very quickly. Ricky says, hey Archie, my wife and I are planning to start DCAing our paychecks, most likely 10 to 15% into crypto instead of the 401k. Do you think ETH, Solana, and Bitcoin are the best? Yeah, they're the best, especially if you're investing a large sum of your income, like 10 or 15%. I think they would be the best ones to invest in because they've got the lowest risk profiles. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. Smash the likes on the stream, guys. 63 likes. Just less than 200 watching. Please hit the likes. Helps out a lot with the channel. Yeah, there was some rumors going around X that there was an FOMC meeting today. That was absolute BS. There is a lot of misinformation on X right now. I don't know what's going on with X, but there is such an absence of good information. There seems to be like so much crap going around on X. Just absolute nonsense. Like someone was saying the FOMC was today. They're calling an emergency meeting. Someone was saying there's like 70 trillion in short liquidations. Just nonsense. I don't know what it is, but these accounts that just post lies seem to get the most likes. It's really, really weird. Would I choose Asta over Hype? Good question. Well, as an investor, looking at the charts, right now I prefer Asta as a buy just because it seems a lot cheaper. Hyperliquid, I would buy if it went a lot lower. So for me to buy Hyperliquid, I'd want it a lot cheaper than where it's at right now. Because to me, Hyperliquid isn't cheap at the moment. It's still a great buy, don't get me wrong. It will go a lot higher in the future. But I don't think hyperliquid at these prices is really cheap. Yeah, I agree, Pygos. I mean, the FDV on hyperliquid's very high. The market cap's already very high. So you're going to need a massive bull run in order to get it to like a 5x or 10x, which a lot of people are hoping for. I mean, the market cap right now of hyperliquid's almost 8 billion. It's like 7.5 billion, I think. So even if there's no dilution, for a 10x, it needs to go to 75 billion market cap, which is insane. And that's if there's no dilution. There is dilution. There's a ton of it. So, yeah, if I'm going to invest in a perp dex, I'm probably picking Asta over hyperliquid at these prices. I would like a position in hyperliquid, but I want a much cheaper hyperliquid. What are my thoughts on Casper at the moment? I'm bullish. I think it's a good buy as long as it's still in the major range that it's in. As long as it maintains this range, then I'm still bullish on Cas. And even if it loses the range for a week or two, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, hyperliquid's chart has held up really nicely. I've got to give it to it. But it's just one of those, you know, like I want to buy it cheaper. And maybe it's just me being really picky and greedy, but I don't think hyperliquid is cheap right now. Do I think it will go a lot higher? Yes. But I don't really think it's like super oversold or super cheap or anything. If anything, it's just had a breakout. Right? We were tracking this move. It just had a breakout move. And look where it was back in April. Hyperliquid back in April was around $9. Compare that to where it is now. It's one of the very few coins that is higher now than where it was in April. One of the very few. Now, it's a big ask for it to come back down to $10. Big ask. Because that's what? A 65% correction? Seems unlikely, but that would be the price where I would want it if I was to buy it. So I guess I'm just going to miss it. Is Dogecoin still a good buy? No. I wouldn't buy Doge. Personally. I just think there's such better investments out there than Doge. This thing only bleeds. And look, at some point it will probably bounce. But I just don't get the appeal of it, really. Just don't get the appeal of Dogecoin. It's such a high market cap meme coin. And it doesn't really get talked about that much anymore. And there's still loads of bag holders who are just looking for any pump to sell. That's one of the problems of these older memes. One of the problems of the older meme coins is there's so many bag holders just waiting for that one day for it to pump so they can sell. Shiba Inu is another one. I mean, this still has a 3.7 billion market cap. Do you realize how hard it would be for this thing to do a 10x? I just don't get the appeal to these super high cap meme coins unless you're just trading them on like a swing trade basis. If I was going to buy a meme coin right now, it would probably be Fartcoin, Pudgy Penguin, or Pepe. I know Pepe has a high market cap, but it's not as high as SHIB or Doge. It's still like 1 billion. What do I think about Sui? Is there any potential left? I'm very bullish on Sui long term. I think it'll do very well. It is the best competitor to Solana that we have in crypto. So whenever this big Solana narrative comes back again, Sui's going to be the best play to compete with Solana. Do you think 30% in Solana is wise? Yeah, that's a fine amount. That's okay. Can Bitcoin go below 60K again? Of course it can. But I don't think it's going to go much lower than that, right? For me, there's a big amount of support around $57,000 because of the 200-week moving average. So we could wick slightly below it, but I don't see us continuing lower than the 200-week moving average unless there's a real black swan event, which is very possible. There's always a possibility of a black swan event. You just don't know when it will be. Stay away from all altcoins, says Dimension. I disagree right now. I think now is a good time to actually begin stacking them again. If you look at some of the big indexes for altcoins, they're starting to show signs of seller exhaustion, in my opinion. I like the others chart. I like the fact that it's just consolidating now in this range, and it's respecting this range. The others chart looks like gold before gold took off. I know a lot of things do, but the others chart definitely does. So I'm expecting another major move up on others from here. Just like what happened. Just like what happened here. We had that massive breakout. Massive breakout. Something similar is probably going to happen in the next couple of years. So for me, I'm very bullish at the moment just because of how cheap prices have become. You got Bitcoin at 66,000, ETH sub 2K. Very bullish at the moment. I'm liking these prices a lot. We can finally say that we've got cheap Bitcoin and cheap altcoins. And I've been in stables for so long, and I'm finally starting to deploy. So Bitcoin's dumping a little bit here, guys, on the 15-minute. Bit of volatility. Another chart people have been looking at is others divided by Bitcoin, right? Others divided by Bitcoin. That's a chart a lot of people have been looking at. It's starting to spike up a bit here. See that? It's held this support level yet again. Yet again, it's basically held this support level. So others divided by Bitcoin looks solid to me. Others.D looks solid to me. Others USD looks solid to me. It looks like we're going to get a bounce on altcoins at some point in the next few weeks. You know, maybe Bitcoin goes slightly lower and then we get the bounce. I'm fine with that. Because if Bitcoin does go slightly lower, we're probably going to get a bullish divergence, which is going to be a bottoming signal for a lot of smart money to buy back in. A lot of those guys are waiting for that. So I wouldn't mind that at all. Another reason I'm bullish on Asta is because of CZ's heavy involvement with the project. As much as people FUD him, he's the richest person in crypto. Yeah, good point. Everyone loves to hate on CZ, but that guy has power. He has pull. He can move a crypto very easily. And he's a strong backer of Asta. So yeah, I think Asta's going to do great. I'm a big fan of it. I don't know what you guys think about it, but I think Asta's going to be one of those alts that makes a big comeback. Because we saw it in the very tail end of the bull run have that massive run up to $2. I think it's going to probably get back to that level at some point and even go higher. You got to think about it. It launched at a very bad time. It launched right at the end of the bull run. Imagine if Asta launched a year before the bull run ended, how much time it would have to gain traction and momentum. But guys, definitely check out the VIP group. There's a link down below. I'm highly recommending right now that people join the bundle because of the announcement coming tomorrow. You're not going to regret joining the bundle today, by the way. Price for the bundle is probably going to be going up very soon because of a new perk that we're bringing to the bundle. So, yeah, definitely join up the bundle if you can afford it. It's not for everyone, only if you can afford it and it fits your own personal goals. But you can basically join it for lifetime mentorship. And if you can't afford that, then just join the VIP group because you're going to get access to the Discord channel, access to the voice chats, which I'm in most days of the week, and you're going to get the most important perk, which is the buy alerts. Real-time buy and sell alerts. Whenever I buy a coin, I let you guys know. Whenever I sell a coin, I let you guys know. And I have a very good track record. And you get my stock market buys and sells as well. So that's another perk that you get. Ricky says, we will speed run this bear market. Everyone is saying October is the bottom, and I think October will be bullish. Yeah, literally, man. I think there's way too many people expecting a Q4 bottom, and for that reason, I'm extremely skeptical of it. Extremely skeptical. And if you look at the fact that most alts are bottoming out now already in terms of the RSIs, you look at the, just look at loads of things. There's loads and loads of confluence building up, suggesting that the sellers are starting to get exhausted and that we're not going to be dumping that much longer. So I'm not expecting much more downside. And for that reason, anytime we get into that kind of 60,000 or less range, I'm going to be buying very heavily. I already deployed a lot of money at 60,000. I had a limit order hit at 60,100. Deployed significantly there. And if we go there again, I'll be deploying again. I'm happy for it to go lower. I just don't think it will go that much lower. That's the problem. I wish it would. I hope it does, but I don't think it's going to go that much lower. We come down here, get a bullish div, and then bounce. That's the perfect scenario. So yeah, across the board today, not a massive market moving day. Bitcoin down about 1.4%. What are the big gainers? Let's take a look. Big gainers, World Liberty Finance, Kite. Big losers, Humanity Protocol, Pump.Fun. So memes seem to be getting hit today. Pump.Fun coin. Not doing amazing. Let's take a look at Pump actually. So Pump kind of had a breakout. And now it seems like it's retesting the breakout point. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not it can hold this range. This previous resistance as support. Because if it does end up losing this, then it's probably going to come a lot lower. So you would hope that it holds this if you're an investor in Pump, because it did just have a legitimate breakout and now it's trying to retest the resistance. You'd hope that it's going to hold that resistance. Previous resistance, right? As support. What do I think about Zcash? I think it'll do fine. Honestly, the privacy coins look okay. Like, I'm monitoring XMR very closely. I've got XMR in this massive pattern of consolidation, and at some point it's going to have a major breakout, right? I would like to see XMR pull back to this support, and that would be an amazing entry if you can get that, but it's not a guarantee. In terms of Zcash, seems like it's kind of flipping the 2021 high into support. That's what it seems to be doing right now. But it might have lost it. I wouldn't be jumping in here, to be quite honest with you. I would wait for potential further downside. Let's check what the RSI is doing on the weekly. You see, it's not bottomed out at all. But then again, this coin has moved very weirdly. It's not one I'd be jumping into right now just because of the fact that it pumps so much and it could come all the way back down. Because typically when you have a major blow off top like that, you do end up coming back down to the base. I told you guys that earlier. You have these major blow off tops, 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, you will end up literally pumping and then just dumping back down. Might take some time, might take longer to dump down than it did to pump, but eventually you will come back down to the base. Not every time, but honestly, probably 80% of the time, that's what happens. You come back down to this major chunk of volume. Yeah, guys, hit the likes up on the stream. We're going to wrap it up here because I've got some stuff to do. Massive, massive announcement will be dropping tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. But guys, also, forgot to mention, sign up to an account on Blowfin. There is right now an exclusive campaign in progress. If you sign up to an account using my link in the description, you're potentially going to get basically free money. Just off using Blowfin, depositing some USDT, trading with the account, you're potentially going to get some free rewards. So that's something that I would definitely do if I was you. There's a link down below. You don't need to KYC, so you can get it set up very quickly. Don't need to KYC, don't need to put your passport in or anything. And if you're in the US, you can use it with a VPN. I appreciate everyone being in the live stream today. Got some things to do, and then I'm going to get onto the Discord later tonight for a potential voice chat with the members. If people are up for it, let me know.